Now that I have all of my inks mixed, I mentally know what's there. Now I can fill out my value scale. I'm going to go from white here to black there. It doesn't really matter what direction you go. I left off mixing this one here, but I decided we're going to leave this white and I'm going to jump straight to this one here and I'm going to test it out. So I'm going to go and I'm saying, all right, I'm going to go close to that edge. For this example, I'm not going to go all the way to the graphite along that edge because I don't want to put wet next to wet. Notice how I don't have a ton of water on there, and I just went across the surface and I'm going to leave it alone. If you keep adding more onto it, you're going to get all sorts of splotches on your rectangle and you won't get a nice even value across the surface. So I was just in this one, so now I'm going to keep track. And I'm going to go into here and fill this one with the slightly darker gray. Notice how I'm changing the direction of my brush. And I'm going to go close to that line, but I don't want to touch this wet next to that wet. Otherwise, they'll just bleed together. If I was working on a project and I needed that value to be touching the other one, I would have to wait for the other one to dry before I could go and put it right up against it. So this one went here, this one went here. Now I'm going to saturate my brush. It's called loading your brush. I'm going to load my brush with that pigment color and fill this one in. This should be my mid-tone. If I did a good job mixing, that'll be a nice medium gray. If I didn't do a good job mixing and I kind of guessed wrong, I'm going to have to adjust and change. Maybe I put a second coat on. So it looks like these two right now are too similar. So I have the choice if I want to wait for it to dry and put a second coat or mix some of this in with that to darken it up. I might check here and problem solve. That one looks like it might be better. I might just go over it while it's wet. Notice that wet on wet, so it kind of bleeds. And now I have to problem solve because I just used that pigment with this one instead. So I still need to get two more darker than that. All right, so we make adjustments. So I already went there. So I'm going to take this one here, test it out on the side, and see if it's too big of a jump from that one to that one. And I'm trying to predict and think. I might just take some of this and put it in here, take some of that and put it in there, so that when I start working on my painting, I know where I am and I have my gradation yet to do. All right, so I'm going to test this out here. Noticing now that that's dry, it definitely, that's this one here, that definitely has some pigment to it. It's not a pure white. There's my wet on wet. Okay, so I'm going to go with this one and see if it works for me. You're welcome to rotate your paper around if that helps you to not have to change your brush position, to have more control. Oh man, see now these two look the same. I might have to take some of that, work fast before it dries. If I got too much water, I can clean my brush out, take my handy paper towel, squeeze that out, and just lift up. This is called Thirsty Brush. Just is literally since I squeezed it out on the paper towel, it's soaking this up like a sponge, like the brush itself is thirsty. And there we go, because I thought that was too much pigment, it was going to get too dark. But I'm liking that jump in value there. Now I'm going to aim for this one before I get to black. So I'm going to take a little bit of black because I know how powerful it is, and I'm going to blend it in here with this one. And I'm going to estimate just a tap more, blend it in there. And then let's lay this down. Hopefully I didn't get it too dark. Hopefully my black will be blacker. And I might do a little bit of thirsty brush to see if I can pick some of that up. Because it's like, oops, you know, I did my, oh man, I touched it. Got a little bleed there. Have to work with that. Clean out my brush. Squeegee it out. Now I'm going to lift some of this up. I can just see that water ink soaking right into my brush. It's making the value lighter and doing the job I need it to. There we go. Now that's looking like a nice step from there. I can kind of clean this up by doing a little bit of thirsty brush right there. So even though I got wet on wet and it transferred, I can clean that up pretty well. I might have a little bit of smudge there, but it'll work. All right, last one. I'm going total black, and then I'll have to decide and evaluate, do I have nice even steps from black to white? Nice and even application of the ink. Get a solid swatch. Now I'm evaluating it and looking. I think once this dried, it got a little dark. I could go with a lighter value. I actually kind of like this one better. So if I was using a different scrap, I could have like added another square here and then added a lighter value and then to white.